Hey, everybody. Hang on just a sec. Welcome, welcome. Let's check some texts and let people come in. How's the hair? Hair looks good. Phone off. Hey, folks, give me just a sec. See you coming in, and we will start this week's rant in just a moment. Let's see if LinkedIn is showing up. Just a sec. Yeah, it says we are going live. Let's see. Are people showing up? Hey, beautiful. Tariq, what's up in Dubai? How are you? All right, I'm jumping off of LinkedIn so it doesn't bother me. They're starting to show up here. There's Tariq. How you doing? Laura Dean, what is going on? Gloomy West Yorkshire. Well, it's been pretty gloomy here in Houston. Welcome to Houston, everybody, to my little headquarters here, my little corner of the world. It's cooling off. Houston's known for a few things. One of them is hot weather, humid weather. It is cooling off, and it's so nice. I love it. Mr. Radford, what's happening? Raleigh, North Carolina. Hey, Philip, how are you? So many people. Hitcham, what's going on? All right. Well, we're doing a special session this week, so I need those of you who are logging on with us right now to do me a favor. I always ask for your participation. This week, I'm demanding it. Everyone watching, you owe me. Here we go. All these free sessions I give you, now you have to pay me back. Today's session doesn't have a script or a plan. It's about you and the questions you have regarding your teams, your organization, your career, your life. What do you want to ask me? So start dropping those into the chat session, please, because me and my great helper, Cheryl, are going to grab some of those. And I'm going to spend the next half hour, give or take, addressing many of those questions. First, update on me. As I said, Houston is getting better and better. There's about 4 months. Don't tell anybody I said this. There's about 4 months out of the year. I love Houston's weather. It's just beautiful. Winter here is spectacular, as long as it's not raining too much. And, well, that's happening more, too, as you know. Virus, it's getting worse. Don't want to talk about it. Not going to go there. U.S. presidential debate. Oh, wow. Don't want to talk about that either. I will tell you something, though, that happened. I got a text last night from my 17-year-old, and he said, this just touched my heart because I believe in people who are engaged and I believe in education. And the boy says to me, I just watched the debate. This was his first debate to ever watch. I just watched the debate. I'm so worried about our country. I don't know what else you can possibly say. Enough of that. I just hope that the country falls in love as much as you and I are in love with education. It might be the only thing that's going to save us. We like to talk about a lot of things. The conversation's not deep. The one thing that's always missing, education. When are we going to make that number one by far? I don't know, but until then, I'm going to stay an educator. So, hi, what's happening? We've got all kinds of people showing up. Dayton, Ronnie, there you are, buddy. All right. What is this live about? Well, I'll tell you what it's about. This is one I do maybe every 10 or 15 streams where I don't show up with a topic. I did not advertise a theme. I don't have a script, no rehearsal. It's just me waiting on you to ask a question. So ask a question in the chat and I will go. I've got one, by the way, from last time. I'm going to start with this question and I want to see more of you jump in and ask me whatever you would like. I've got one from last time I didn't get to that's going to kick us off. And someone asked me, and this is horrible. I hope this hasn't happened to you. Someone asked me, what do you do when the boss takes your credit for your idea? So you're at work, you're doing what you think is competent, creative work. Your boss says, I need to pick your brain. Let's talk. You're working through it. You come up with a solution, an idea, a something. And the boss then later represents that as their idea when they're talking to someone else. Have you ever done that? I can tell you when I heard this question, I was moved, and here's why. It's happened to me once. I was sitting in a meeting. In this meeting was my boss. and several people above that level as well, and many peers. And the topic I really was looking forward to talking about came up. And when it did, my boss stepped forward very proactively and quite eloquently. And this person then said, well, I've been thinking, and here's what I think we really should do. And shared my idea as if it was theirs in front of everyone, my peers and my boss's bosses. So let me ask you, what do you do? First of all, has that ever happened to you? I don't know. Has it happened to you? It's uncomfortable. I mean, if you're energetic and you're trying to better yourself and do right by the team, you know it's hard to hold your tongue. I'm not good at it. That's why I speak for a living. I wanted to speak up so bad and say, wait a minute, person. That is a good idea, and it's mine. And I didn't do that. I didn't do that for a variety of reasons. Number one, I didn't think I had the power to do it. Number two, I didn't think there was a clear upside to righting that wrong publicly at that time in front of all those people. I knew for a fact that I would cause the person who kind of acted like it was their idea. I knew I would cause them problems. So I got to tell you, this is going to be advice you didn't see coming, that you didn't necessarily love, but it's good. You ready? You can't fight every fight. And sometimes small wrongs are going to happen to you. Small ones, medium ones, big ones. The question is, where does this fit in the pantheon of wrongs that you sometimes have to face because you can't fight every battle? In this case, I did a quick mental calculus in my example. Hey, who in the room knows me and knows that this is my idea? And they know to just kind of roll their eyes at the person who just publicly claimed ownership of my idea. I had maybe a third, maybe as much as a half of that room who understood that. And I also knew that the bosses of my boss who were in the room knew me, valued me, understood me, and we're going to find out eventually that there was no fear or no serious risk to me. In fact, the only risk I think in this situation, which makes me lucky, was that my boss was going to be found out as a person who kind of did not show themselves to be the rightful owner of that idea. So what do you do when that happens? Let me encourage you with some basic advice the next time this happens to you. Don't blow up. Emotional Intelligence 101, calmly think about the situation before calmly or otherwise you react to the situation. You can learn to hesitate and think before you react. So from an emotional intelligence perspective, chill out and think for just a good 5 to 10 seconds about what's going on, and realize that only under extraordinary circumstances should you speak up in the moment. If it's just the team, no outsiders, it's more okay to speak up in the moment. But you've got to make sure that people will believe you, which means that you've got to show that this was your idea you came up with, and you've got to be kind about it and succinct about it. Almost always, when you do that briefly, respectfully, just the team in the room, people are going to believe you, they're going to understand you, and the person who claimed the idea is very often going to go, you're right, I didn't mean to misrepresent, that was us having a conversation, I didn't see one owner, but you're right, you were there, and your contribution was huge, so thank you. So when you give them a chance, they often do some version of that, then you just move on, it's all good. But you still have to ask yourself, is that worth it? Most of the time, it's actually not worth it because of the awkwardness that you have to create just to right the small wrong that they created. The best option usually is to wait till it's over, because some people are going to know anyway, and talk to the person offline. If the idea matters, if it's beyond trivial, talk to the person online. Most people who have the temerity, the gall to speak up and take an idea from you aren't going to see this coming. You're going to learn to walk up to them in private, that's respectful, with words that are positive and well chosen and brief. You're going to say, I'm not sure exactly how you interpreted what happened in the meeting today. That idea, which I like a lot, is my idea, and you claimed it as your own, even though I'm pretty sure you got it from me. I could be wrong, though. I'd like to make sure I clear that with you, because I didn't want to feel weird about it if I didn't have to. So now I've been matter of fact and fairly brief and fairly positive, but I've given them a chance to apologize, or at least admit that was an overstep on their part or something. You know what you've really done also long-term? You have put them on notice politely, professionally, that your ideas are yours, and that we have respect and integrity in this relationship, and they're not going to do that again. And you didn't even have to say, you're not going to do that again. You follow me? Whew, happened to me. I survived. I hope that you can as well. Questions starting to pop up. Very excited about that. I'm seeing great names. Hey, Gary, what's going on? Jerome, what's happening? Mr. Radford, that's a good one. I'm going to get to that in a second, sir. Absolutely. Maria, what's going on? Barcelona, Spain. Great to have you. A couple of friends that also had a functional reward for their idea. Laura says, yes, she can relate for sure. Let's tackle this one for just a minute. Mr. Radford says, quick feedback for someone transitioning into a leadership people management role to gain the trust of the client and his or her direct team. Man, I love the topic, my friend, of new leaders. Of course, wherever I've got work out there, I'll reference it. I've got a great course, popular. Lots of folks have watched on LinkedIn Learning about being a new manager. Please go check that out. Cheryl, drop that link if you can find the new manager course. Great stuff. There isn't a simple one answer. I love to remind people of this, and I might mention this again because it fits into another topic I was hoping to squeeze in, and that is this. Success is not about one or two things you do right and then everything works. I get this question a lot. Hey, man, you're supposed to be a leadership person, career guy, relationship guy, success person, all that. What's the one or two things, if I do them well, that will make me, wow, successful? Well, I love sharing this. This is honest. You ready? It's not about one or two things. It's almost never about one or two things. Success is far better defined as the cumulative effect of many small things done correctly over time. That's what a relationship is. It doesn't turn on one thing. It's really about the quality of the average thing over time. Does that make sense? All right, so it's not just one thing. Having said that, in our short time together to answer your question, I can only give you a few things. Let's think first about your team. Now, in terms of the client, I want you and the team to collaborate and have an approach that goes in so that one clear voice is given to the client, but I don't like to dwell on that because I'm not a customer service expert per se. I am a team and leadership guy, so let me think about you trying to get off on the right foot with that team. The first thing, listen, I had a friend of mine, a mentor. You don't always agree with everything they give you, right? This is someone who's been important in my life. And he once told me, first thing you do when you're a leader is you go find the loudest Yahoo or predictably problematic person in the group, and you take them out in the hallway and you yell at them and you shake them up. And he meant that because that was an old school mentality to how you assert yourself and establish authority when you're new. And I couldn't possibly agree less. That's why I'm not telling you who that amazing person is, because I don't like that idea at all. I think the opposite actually works far better and far more often in today's organizational life. Sure, there are dinosaur people, dinosaur groups, organizations, even a few industries still out there, and command and control works and barking works. The evolving norm, the evolving average is far more progressive, collaborative, open, positive, collegial. And that's the world I'm in. That's what I teach and preach. Why? One, it makes a lot of sense to me. I believe in it. Two, the science for the last 50 years absolutely backs it up. So you're going to do the opposite, Mr. Radford. You're going to humble yourself day one and go, I'm privileged to be here. I'm excited to see what we can create. First thing I got to do is tell you, I don't know everything, and I can't wait to learn what you know, because the better we build a little rapport around what you guys know, the better I can help us figure out how to use it. Do you see what I just did there in a very small number of words? I talked about how they matter. I talked about how I don't know it all. I talked about how we is more important than I. By the way, if you're new to these streams, all of these, as you can tell, I'm caffeinated, I go fast. All of these end up as videos we post on LinkedIn and other platforms, so you can find this video. If you're thinking to yourself, that was good, what did he say? Would he say it again? Don't worry, you can just go back and check the recording and stop and watch whatever you need to. But I have to tell you, in a short number of words, you can convey those messages. That is beautiful. Now, it is true, and this is respect to my old mentor friend, it is true that you have to figure out how to establish authority. I'm just telling you, don't take someone out back and yell at them and shake them up. That's not how you do it. The way you do it is private before public. So ideally, before the first big team meeting, and you do have to have a kickoff meeting going, I'm so happy to be here and how are you? And thanks for all the hospitality so far today and all those things if you're the new person, okay? Before that, you want to do one-on-ones with everyone in the team, all of your direct reports. And during those sessions, yes, you will be listening, taking notes, asking questions more than just pontificating about your philosophy, which you could do in the public meeting, or anything about yourself. Just number one, do not get lost talking about yourself. It's easy to do. We know this, right? Don't do that. Those one-on-ones are about listening, asking questions, taking notes more. But when you're asking questions and when you do talk, you do want to assert confidence and authority in that small bit of time you're dedicating to yourself during the one-on-one. You want to tell people, I mean, it's true that I always make decisions with clarity and I'm a strong decision maker, but the truth is I rarely make decisions without fully incorporating what I can learn from the team first, whenever there's time to do that or whenever it's appropriate. So let me ask you a question. See what I just did? I just took 15 seconds, if that, to assert that I love making decisions, I own them, but guess what? I always like to collaborate and get the right input. So let me ask you a question. Are there topics that you really like to have more voice in because that's something that matters to you and really jives with your area of expertise compared to other areas that we all have to make decisions in? That's just one question as an example that you might use in those one-on-ones that shows that you care, that shows that you're strong, that shows that you're an even better listener than a talker. Listen, nothing's perfect. It doesn't guarantee the team's going to love you. When you start with one-on-ones that are about being inquisitive and learning, building rapport and showing respect more than just asserting authority and talking about yourself, you can do that. You have to do that. But it's like this, not like this. And that's what's so important. Then you get to the public show. The public show, I got to tell you, is fun, but it's just ceremonial. Don't get lost in preaching. You really do want to laugh at yourself as much as you talk about yourself. If you don't get what I just said, folks, leadership's going to be a challenge for you. It's stressful, so don't maximize how stressful it has to be. Let's minimize that, and that starts with a little laughter. You can laugh at yourself. You know what happens when you learn to laugh at yourself? Guys, it took me longer than I thought to get here because, well, I didn't realize I needed a mentor until I was 30. I probably should have realized it at 20, but at least I finally got there, and it made me, the professional I am today. That's me honestly making fun of myself, and you can do versions of that make you, well, human in their eyes. You can do that. So humanize yourself, laugh at yourself, tell them about expectations that you have, but do not get lost in meeting one, the big kickoff, talking about those expectations. Instead, say, thanks for meeting with me. Every one of you spent some time with me. I can't tell you how much I've learned that is really helping me think about setting our agenda. I'm going to come back to each of you with some more thoughts, but within the next few weeks, and you set a couple expectations, you're going to be hearing from me. And then you do that. You go offline, you come up with what it is. When you think about your expectations, the first big one you're going to share, Radford, I'm going too long on this one, but here we go. I want you to think about less is more. Less is more. Yes, big goals, but I want you to not throw too many grenades. To the extent they have good progress, good goals, good momentum, you want to validate that and leverage that, because then on round quarter two, quarter three that you're there, then you've built much more rapport upon which you can ask them to start supporting you as you dream with them out loud about new and or potentially bigger goals. So there it is. That's just a quick riff on how to be an effective new leader. But it's not about your accolades. It's about you listening and validate them. It doesn't matter where you've been, what you've done. What can you do for them? Whether that's fair or not is what they're going to be thinking about for sure. Got a question here. Thank you, Holly. Good to see you. More people jumping on. Narissa, hi from Paris. How are you? Miss Marco, good to see you. Interesting. So here's an open question. I'm going to answer it even though it's dangerous, because you could answer this question for, well, if you're me, for about 2 weeks. Here it goes. Hikem says, what makes a great leader? Oh, Are you serious? There's a bunch of answers there, my friend. I'm going to give you a quick riff, and I'm going to encourage you to embrace something that me and my friends at LinkedIn and all of my colleagues I know are just really into lately, especially since the pandemic, and that is always be learning. You, sir, if you want to answer that question, there's so much you can go find. You can Google, and you'll find free things and podcasts and blogs. Check out my blog if you haven't seen it. Just go over to drdewett.com, click on blog. It'll take you to my blog site. There are a million great videos on YouTube. And then if you have a little bit of change, there's a million platforms from LinkedIn Learning, my favorite, of course, to many others, where you'll find all kinds of people with great backgrounds sharing their views on your question, what makes a great leader? I'll tell you, you've got to have great integrity. You've got to have great expertise, competence. But then there's something else. You have to be open-minded and willing to develop others to chase something bigger than you. It's not just about IQ. It's not just about work ethic. It's about believing that more is possible. It's about helping others become the best version of themselves. It's about leaving a team better than you found it. It's about absolutely helping people feel like they're walking with purpose and not just chasing a paycheck. If you gave me 20 seconds, that's the answer that I would give you. And then if you gave me 2 weeks, I would say, all right, we could talk about a long curriculum for what makes a great leader. You got to have the competence. You got to have the continuous learning, not just for your people, but for you. You've got to break down what it means to motivate people, to deal with conflict and make it work for you, to understand change, innovation, creativity, to really understand the aspects of communication that drive a team roles, team norms. I could go on. Decision-making, don't get me started. There's so much that you have to understand about decision-making, but those are the basic building blocks. And whether you're looking at a good textbook or courses from someone like me online that I hope you'll check out, you'll find a deeper dive on all of those topics. But I would start by telling you some of the ideals that I gave in the 20-second answer, because that really is the best answer. It's about getting people to believe more is possible, be the best version of themselves, build the team even more than you build yourself, and get people thinking about purpose far more than a paycheck. You do that and you will be, by anyone's measure, a great leader for sure. How do you say this beautiful name? Is it Besania? Besania? Besiana. I wish I was not torching that name. It's beautiful. She asked this question: what is the biggest lesson you've learned during your career so far? Love this question. Thanks for asking. I could answer it a lot of different ways, but I'm going to give you a very specific take, and I mean this sincerely. I still read the work of people who do what I do. I still read the summaries of the science that's out there. I still spend time on professional online places like LinkedIn all the time to learn from people who've done things I haven't done. So the answer to your question is that the greatest thing I've learned is how little I know. Think about that for just a minute. That's a strange idea to a lot of people. It's humbling to a lot of other people. I love that idea. You've got to learn, and it's hard for some people. You've got to learn to get comfortable with that idea. Most people are freaked out by that idea because they want to buy into the illusion that they have complete control and know everything or know more than everybody else. That is a joke. If you know anything, I became a scientist to feel confident about what I'm telling you right now. What we know, and I'm talking we meaning the ridiculously overeducated, scientific-minded, smart people out there, whatever that means. What we know compared to what is knowable is a joke. It's funny. It's a beautiful thing to try and maximize what your brain's capable of and how much you can pack in there. I love that. But what we know relative to what's knowable is hilarious, and the gap is immense. Every year of the 10 years I spent in higher ed trying to earn degrees, I got to tell you, man, I figured out more and more interesting things, which then led to a conclusion. Man, I know next to nothing. It's a beautiful thing. It makes you learn to laugh at yourself better. It makes you embrace for real, always learning, that notion we see on hashtags everywhere lately. It's so beautiful because it's necessary, it's fun, and it's required. I know a lot about the topics I talk about. I know way more than I did 10 years ago. And I got to tell you, 10 years from now, when you're sitting there watching me sitting here ranting about who knows what professional topic, I'm going to know a whole lot more than I know right now because I believe in that. So once you admit you're human, you're imperfect, you know that much. It's not supposed to be a negative thought or a defeating thought. It's an honest, hilarious, motivating thought. We know so little. Man, get on the continuous learning train. Honestly, that is the best, because when your people at work see you modeling that behavior, meaning embracing continuous learning, that is by far the biggest motivator to them. You could scream all day. You're a manager, you're HR, you're L&D. Guys, want to get that average number of hours up, people consuming learning. We like that. You can preach all you want, and that's useful. We've got to do versions of that. I know that. But your strongest teacher by far is your example. Never forget that. Your strongest teacher by far is your example. And when they see you embrace a norm, they're more likely to do so themselves. The answer to your question is, the greatest thing I've ever learned is how little I know. And it makes me a good learner and a creator through many channels, just like this one, of other learners. I hope you take that to heart. I really do. We have just a few minutes left. Hey, C. Scott Hanna. Questions popping up. You are welcome. Thank you. You know, I'm seeing several, and I've got a very little bit of time left for one more. So here goes, one more for this session. And if I don't get to you, apologies, send me a note online. I can't wait to try and give you a quick take on whatever the issue is that you're facing. Last one, how do you tackle politics in organizations? Come on, Suhas, is that a trick question? Let me give you the short answer. You ready? You don't tackle politics. Now, if you're referring to outside politics, I mean it. You don't tackle politics. If you're on the inside of an organization and you're referring to the politics of organizational life, it is an issue you should care about, but you don't want to become a political person. You want to think to yourself, don't become a political person, become a relationship person, a networking person, a building bridges person, a supportive person, because there is a weird bunch of baggage that comes with politics as a word inside organizational life, and it's almost always a negative connotation. You don't want that. So here's the truth. Agendas and relationships matter. People who say, I will avoid politics because Todd's right, it's too negative, will suffer as a result. I don't like saying that, but I want to validate your question and then tell you that you can't play politics full time. You have to ask yourself which projects, which people matter the most to you by interest and based on their instrumental value to your future. Those folks, for them and the networks you share, the work you share, you do have to think through the main players, their main agendas, and how what you and the team are trying to accomplish does or does not support those other people's agendas. That is the brutal short take on politics. Think about how you can align yourself to help you and the team. Think about, irrespective of your work, how you can help others with their agendas so that later when you truly need their assistance and support, you have a higher likelihood of getting it. In a brutally simple way, that's politics. You're supposed to spend that much time thinking about it. Do not let it consume you at all. Think about excellence in your work and building rapport in general in your network, and then occasionally, just occasionally, deep diving on the personnel and agenda thing that I was talking about. And that's as deep as I believe you need to think about politics. So it's on your radar and it does not consume you. I hope you find that useful. In fact, you know what? That's all I do is try and be useful for all of you. Thank you for being here. If you've not stopped by drdewett.com, please do. I want to see you. Check out the blog, sign up for the newsletter where you're going to be among the very first to learn about everything I'm doing, from where I'm speaking to the next thing I'm creating. I got books coming up. I got courses coming up. You'll hear more about that. This week, I am doing a wonderful panel online for an interesting event from LinkedIn. Cheryl, throw up before we leave that LinkedIn link. It's LinkedIn's Learning, LinkedIn Learning is putting on an amazing learning event this week, next week, October 6 and 7. There we go, October 6 and 7. Come join us, jump online. Good learning with real interesting people. I hope to see you there. This will turn into a video. Go find it, share it with your team, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks.